Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 105 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, November 6, 2017.
So I'm waiting for my show notes to load here. Hey, I'm Gavin, business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, host of the Greater Toronto Area chapter of the Tactical Beard Owners Club.
I'm Marty, hunter and sports shooter in rural Southern Ontario.
I'm Matt, sports shooter and heavy equipment operator in Southern Ontario.
And as always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recon shooter and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical.
Then we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. The edited version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes, and we'd love some more 5-star iTunes reviews, guys.
You can check the podcast out on Facebook and Instagram, facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast or Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
All right. We need your help. To support the show, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get the uncensored audio version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are.
Sorry, I kind of sprung that on Marty, so that was in fact not a question. We need your help. More help?
We certainly do.
The help we can get. Apologize about being late this evening. The internet.
I think what Andrew
must be what it's like to be order.
Yeah. I think what Andrew's trying to say is we apologize for our lateness, but the internet was acting up on us. So forgive us, please.
Also, I will be late editing this week's show again because traveling for work, so and around. Let's do what are we drinking? Gavin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Jack and Coke Zero this evening. Although with all these technical difficulties, I don't know if I have enough.
Marty, what are you drinking?
I am drinking Crown Royal Apple with Coke Zero.
All right. Matt, what are you drinking?
Bacardi Oak Heart and Dr. Pepper.
Nice.
Oh, something a little different.
A little different this week.
A terrible hotel coffee that I found. But I do have good news. Tune in for the next 2 episodes because at some point in the very near future, good news on the coffee front for all of our Patriot listeners.
Yes. Exciting announcements to be made.
All right, let's get into the news. I have no drops. I'll edit in sound effects if I feel time. We're going to start with the Canada politics stuff. To us from the Edmonton Journal. A month later, no terrorism charges have been filed in the Edmonton attack. We'll recall there was an individual that decided it was a good idea to stab pedestrians over with a U-Haul truck about a month ago. Still waiting for his first trial on November the 14th. He has not been charged with terrorism.
Well, I mean, it's only terrorism if like you have a political agenda to push, though, right? Like, so it's not like the guy had like an ISIS flag in his truck when he did all this.
Good thing they don't have any sort of like ISIS has been an indication of why he was committing the violent crimes he was committing. That's definitely not a religious or political ideology.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a lone
like
wolf attacker, I'm sure.
When you read the reasoning as to why they didn't, why they have not charged him with terrorist charge, this is the explanation that was given, is that essentially the way the laws are like terrorism charges are stipulated and are codified in our law, is that, you know, they have to be able, if they charge him with terrorism, they have to be able to prove that, you know, he did this with the intention of furthering the ideology of ISIS, essentially. And for them, it becomes a much more difficult charge to stick than just the murder charges. And they're saying that, like, it's a lot more difficult for them to get a terrorism charge on the guy. It's a lot easier to just stick him with the murder charges. The murder charge puts him up to 5 life sentences, and so it's like a simpler thing for them to deal with.
So I'm not a lawyer,
but
yeah, go ahead.
Lawyer, but I am staying at a hall, and it seems to me that in any other circumstance, our level as possible just to see what will stick.
Yeah,
unsafe.
Like when you get busted for illegal firearms, they throw like every tiny little thing that it's like, oh, possession without a license, ammo
unsafe
without a
storage,
license.
unsafe storage.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
They'll actually make
if you or I got busted with some sort of a firearms paper firearms offense, they're gonna throw unsafe storage. They're gonna throw everything that you can at you. When you see like all of these like gang shootings and these guys that arrested all these stolen guns and stuff like that, they don't get the firearms charges. They don't get unsafe storage of ammunition and stuff like that. They don't like the firearms. All the people that get charged for firearms offenses, it's the law abiding. The criminals basically don't. They drop it all because they'll get them on the the break-in and entry and the robbery or the murder or something like that. They stick them with those ones and they just don't bother with the firearms charges at that point.
Understand that policing on the part of the Edmonton Police Service, because if they're going to,
I think it's lazy.
Like generally,
I think it's lazy policing, and the other thing that I think is an issue here is that it affects the statistics. Because people are going to say, well, there's never been a terrorist attack in Canada because this wasn't a terrorist attack. This was just murder.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very helicopter-worthy statement.
I'm just saying, like that's
no.
the issue
I hadn't considered
this
it.
kind
You're
of
right.
thing.
That's a valid angle. You're right. That eliminates reduces the number of terrorism attacks in Canada. Actually, it's not terrorism if you can't prove it. But yeah, that's a really good way to look at that, Marty. Finding a silver lining and ruining my day.
But so it's kind of like when they include like the suicide numbers for firearms deaths in with like the violent crime deaths to try and inflate that to make it look like when all of a sudden you ban them that like all these people stop dying when the violent crime stats are the same.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of my big issue with this is I think it's one of those things that's used to skew the statistics to push an agenda. And that's one of the things that I'm concerned about with this type of a thing. So their statement about, not being able to stick the charges, or it's more difficult to stick the charges, and so that it takes more resources and stuff like that. Sure, that's probably true. But they have a job to do. And, I don't think that, taxpayers aren't going to be upset about taxpayer dollars being used to charge terrorists with terrorism.
Yeah. Like if all the things we spend tax dollars on, that's one thing I would be fine with.
I
would much rather we spend tax dollars charging terrorists with terrorism than, giving $10 million to a terrorist. Just saying.
Yeah. More on that later.
Excellent segue. Let's talk about an article from Global News. ISIS fighters, are they a threat? It's complicated report. I don't really see how it's complicated. So there's a number of jihadis that have decided after the Syria. Something with these people now? Something on the order of just shy of 200 people that are trying to get turned to Canada following their alleged involvement with ISIS. Really see what's complicated about this. If you want to go and be a terrorist and join a foreign military for Canadian citizenship, stay the fuck out. Pretty easy.
Yeah, like I don't. If you leave to go and fight for any organization that is not an ally and is considered by the vast majority of the civilized world to be a terrorist organization, and I don't care which one, you shouldn't be allowed back in the country. And if you are allowed back in the country, it should only be so that you can immediately be like put into a holding cell until they can get you onto the back of a helicopter.
No, I mean, there's going to be exceptions to this, right? Because we don't know everybody that's traveled to certain countries like Iraq or Syria has there to join. But on the other hand, we have a fairly intelligence apparatus, and where we suspect these people have gone over to join terrorist military groups, paramilitary groups, flag them on their return. They have to go through customs, and if they can come up with a reasonable reason to a border services agent or a CSIS agent or an RCMP agent, then okay, fine. We can have an actual investigation and find out what they were doing for 3 years in Syria if it wasn't blowing people up or legitimately doing something. And but if they wanted to go play terror, it'd come back, and we have proof to that fact. Like, you stopped being Canadian. Go live in ISIS. Have fun with the Islamic Caliphate.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody left and wanted to join like the Peshmerga and like do some good, I'd be fine with them coming back into the country, But go join a terrorist organization. Sorry, but you forfeit your citizenship. It's not complicated at all.
Yeah. Well, once you take up arms against a country, you no longer have the rights and protections of that country.
We could be as bad as the Brits are. They've got something on the order of 400 jihadi fighters returning to England, and they're spending something on the order of £50 million trying to reintegrate into society. So they're getting government housing, government food, government education programs, government loans, free medical services through NHS, referrals to specialists in psychology and mental health fields. So integrated so as to not pose a terrorist risk. So £50 million won't become terrorists when the solution seems it should just be you're just not welcome back. Like, just, you wanted to go and play ISIS, have fun. You're now ISIS. Stay out.
Yeah.
See us doing the same thing that the Brits have done. We're like, our government is going to cock, and it's going to cost us a.
You mean more than they already have?
Do these terrorists have to walk across a border and
tons more,
or not?
No. They just come back in airplanes. They don't have to sneak across.
Oh, perfect. We're letting them in.
Yeah, because these are ones we know are terrorists, so they're allowed into the country. It's the ones we're not sure are terrorists that have to sneak across and get.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to
and then get the free stuff
so that we know.
Yeah. Make sure they have child porn on them. That's how that works.
Yeah.
All right, let's do another one. I've got, I think this is a first for us. We're going to reference Al Jazeera.
Oh, God.
So the rest of the world is, or at least Al Jazeera, thinks that Canada has got a hypocritical feminist foreign policy, and with them.
I mean, is this like we're agreeing with them for the wrong reasons again?
Oh, I think I'm agreeing with Al Jazeera for the right reasons. Our foreign policy, our feminist, quotes feminist foreign, really hypocritical. We have a balanced cabinet based on their, not based on their qualifications.
No, that's being a woman
Barbie,
and or a man, depending on the job.
We're selling arms and accessories to Saudi Arabia, a country that numerous and egregious human rights violations, but we keep selling Canadian light armored vehicles, and they're allowed to sell machine guns to countries like Saudi Arabia.
They need
agreeing with Al Jazeera for all the wrong reasons.
I mean, those countries need light armored vehicles as well. I mean,
saying they don't. I'm fine with Canadian companies products. It doesn't matter what that product is. If it's a light armored vehicle or if it's a toaster, I'm glad we're making things in Canada. Government was less hypocritical if they wanted to control what's being sent. Maybe giving countries that commit numerous and egregious human rights violations the ability to buy Canadian products, thanks or toasters, isn't the best choice.
So we have a hypocritical feminist leader. Is anybody shocked that we have a hypocritical feminist foreign policy?
Slightest.
Like, we've talked about this ourselves numerous times about how, like the overcorrection is equally sexist. It's, here's the example. It's like if you said that, like, which it was, slavery was a huge mistake and never should have happened. And so in order to make sure it never happens again, we're going to make all the white people slaves. And it's like, that would also be a human rights violation. That would also be an issue. Like, those two wrongs they don't cancel each other out. It's not a correction. You have to learn from the mistakes of the past and change your ways and apply things equally. You can't just like screw over the opposite so that way it makes it okay.
No. Again, agreeing with Al Jazeera for all the wrong reasons.
No, I think it's the right reasons. Like, they're actually calling it out.
Well, and I'm glad they are, and I think this sort of reflects I mean, Al Jazeera certainly leans in a certain direction, but I think this is the world. We are a nation of cocks.
Yeah. But hold
on.
We're
seeing examples of this everywhere right now, of the left turning on their own. Because, you can be as hard left as you are. There's somebody that thinks you're not left enough. And if you're not left as they are, you're literally Hitler.
It's true. I always like to point out that Hitler is also on the national socialism thing. But anyway.
Well, if you look at like the scale of like not free to free, yeah, he's as far left as you can go, really. I mean, he's right up there with Stalin and those guys.
Yeah.
That's the spectrum I look at. Isn't that the one that everyone else uses? I thought that's what they meant by alt-right. We use an alternate spectrum where we're on the far right because that's freedom.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the same political spectrum that they're using, but all right, I'll let you have it.
Yeah, I agree with your more free, less free. I maybe disagree with what you think the alt-right is.
But I thought we're the media now, so we get to define these things, right?
We are
how this works?
Yeah.
I mean,
we've got a couple of the Governor General. Julie Piet is our new Gov Gen astronaut, radical climate person. So I guess the thing to general is to side with the Liberals and make fun of is a job description for the Gov Gen, and I didn't notice.
So I think what the broken robot was trying to say is the Governor General, basically in a speech, made a lot of sort of alienating comments. Let's say, like she kind of made fun of people that believe in religion, or that did not necessarily believe that humans were a major contributor to climate change. And for somebody in the Governor General who is supposed to be nonpartisan, extremely neutral, she's not allowed. Her role is one that she's not. She shouldn't be expressing these types of opinions. So it's not an issue that she has these opinions. The issue is that she's expressing these opinions and showing her bias and showing that she can't be neutral in that position.
Yes, that is what I was saying.
There you go. Marty's officially our robot translator now.
As someone who was on the other side of the broken robot for many, many episodes.
It comes in handy.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to this. This is like poor behavior from the Governor General. As the Queen's representative in Canada and technically the head of our government, is government.
Yeah.
Is what not siding with the Liberals and making fun of Canadians, her particular version of climate. Like, I'm all for making fun of people's religious beliefs and their what would you call the horoscope thing, their cosmetology beliefs.
I believe I would call that bullshit, Andrew.
Well, so would I, but I would also call that with the whole, because
astrology. This
you can't prove it. You don't have enough data.
What about crazy, weird hippieism? Is that a term?
Yep. Still not the Governor General's job, though.
Fair. It's our job to make fun of pretty much everybody, I think, is where we're
right. Our job is satirical news reporters.
Man, this episode's a gong show.
To be fair, there's a few episodes that are. This one is just for different reasons. An excellent drop there, Marty.
Here.
We may have to start using that
syllable one out there.
Oh, I did. I'm still not coming amongst yourselves for a while then.
All right, what's the next one? Is that also Governor General again? All right.
On the Governor General, then we have an article from Sun News. Morneau pays $200 fine under the Conflict of Interest Act. I assume you guys still can't hear me though.
No. We
oh
yeah. And now I'm outraged.
Excellent, good. So Morneau has paid the $200 fine for the Conflict of Interest Act. This is for the error in failing to properly this French company that owns the multi-million-dollar. Oh, I forget where this was. It was in.
Just like to put one thing in perspective here. If I'm driving in my car and I huck some garbage out the window, I'm going to pay a $500 fine.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
you're hurting the environment. That's bad. Listen to the Governor General. Jesus.
I'm satisfied, really. I mean, he's had to pay a fine. Clearly, he's learned his lesson now, and it's never going to happen again, right?
I'm pretty sure the only lesson that he has learned is that as long as it's going to be a conflict of interest, it needs to net him $200 or more.
Yeah.
Like,
let's see, what's Morneau's net worth?
well, what does he report, or what is it actually? Because I think
that's going to be in the dollars.
I mean, don't forget to add in
his family holdings versus the numbered companies that he's on the board of directors of.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of that's in euros.
Individually, I would imagine that he is worth tens of millions of dollars. Of the things that he has control over through his family or through numbered businesses that I would imagine that's in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh, you mean all those things that are a conflict of interest?
Yeah. So I mean, just this past, in last month, he was talking about how he was going to be selling $21 million worth of shares because of this conflict of interest. So that was just what was in one of the numbered companies that he was hiding assets in. There was $21 million worth of shares. So yeah, he's, let's just say $100 million conservatively.
So the $200.
It's got to be at least
drop in the bucket.
Oh, I was gonna say, so that's a deep cut then, right?
Yeah.
What is not publicized at all, and was put out by the Office of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner as a as a government memorandum. Public knowledge outraged by this. The hearing about it.
Yeah.
So, okay. First off, I mean, there's nothing unexpected here. To be honest,
no, not at all.
The liberals are playing like the rules don't apply to them. That's what they've always done. Not a big surprise. Now, the fact that there is a $200 fine that even exists, how is our government structured in such a way that an MP has only a $200 fine?
Because there's rules for the plebeians, and then there's ones we are. We're the ones that pay the $500 littering fine, not the ones that sit in the House of Commons.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I didn't really want to spend a ton of time on that one. I just wanted to bring it up because we've talked about Morneau a bunch, and this isn't getting media coverage, so I figured all of our listeners would be interested to know that he has been fined, and he has paid his $200 pittance.
I'm surprised he doesn't challenge it, really.
It's not worth making a stink over. That would actually garner media attention.
Not with our media. Not with the political side that he's on, and not with our media.
Not a lot.
I think we should come up with a more appropriate fine, if you will, for him. A one-way ticket on our helicopter.
Yeah. A reward for terrible behavior.
Yeah. You know what? I'll even pay his $200 ticket price for the ride.
Yeah. All right, I don't know. Did we lose Andrew again?
Oh, nothing witty to say. To move on to the next thing whenever you guys want. I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like this wasn't getting any media coverage, and it's an important thing for our listeners to hear about.
Yeah, but it's important.
Yeah, I think it's. Let's move on to the main topic.
To piss them off. That's the thing.
Well, yeah. About this.
Yeah.
Let's do something that's stunning. We've got a sports ball, not really sports ball, but we do have an athletic story this week. Sport Canada utterly dominates. Corey Belmore smashes the beer mile world record again. So I didn't know that this was a thing. Apparently, there's like an international contest in San Francisco to run a beer mile. You have to run a mile, which is 1,600 meters in Canadian, drinking 4 beers. And
I think next year we're going to sponsor Tyler to run that for the podcast.
He did it in 4.5 minutes. That's that mile is impressive, but he did it well. It's particularly impressive. Good beer.
Yeah,
because you have to stop to chug the beer. It's not like you're like running with the beer. Like that's 4 stops to chug a beer. Well, and he did the mile in 4.5 minutes.
His time either came close to or beat one of the previous records for just running it like without chugging a beer, I believe.
Yeah, like a 4.5 minute mile is like stupid fast.
Yeah.
So like the fastest time ever for a 1 mile is like 4 minutes and 29 seconds, and this guy did.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No. 4:29
that's 1 second a beer.
Yeah, 4:29 is not the fast time ever for a mile, but
it was at one point. There was a world record that was close to his time. Yeah, like a while ago.
In the 70s, female best mile time was 4:29.
Okay,
that's still like he stopping to chug beer. This guy came close to a world record time. Like, but seriously though,
4 times stopping 4 times to chug beers.
Seriously though, Patreon subscribers, send us some money, and we can use that money to send Tyler to San Francisco to compete.
I would train for this.
Send a lot of money, and we will all go down to San Francisco and train for this to compete as a team.
What? Dude, this is not just a San Francisco thing. Like, there's local beer miles you can do.
Why are we just hearing of this then? The local ones.
Yeah, I have buddies that have done the beer mile.
I mean, I don't run. Like, is there like a sprinting one, but like more of an endurance race where you stop like 10 times over the mile? Because I could do that.
I just sit at the bar.
The beer mile, like it really was. It was guys that looked like us originally, where it was like just a social like joke of a thing. But then, like, actual athletes started showing up and just kicking everyone's ass.
Oh, actual athletes.
But yeah, and it was in San Francisco this year. He broke the record from his own record? Where was that one? It's different places all the time as well for the main ones.
It was in the UK the first time.
Yeah.
Said it.
Yeah. The record that he just broke was his own that was set in the UK. Yeah. So yeah, Canada, we're number 1.
Good news.
That it was just a fun story for something a little different after all the sad things. Next one.
Oh, yeah. This is depressing.
Yeah, everyone just shut down your YouTubes for this. You don't want to hear it.
Edit the show, but do the 22 minutes bit. Do the bit, Gavin.
Which bit? I don't have show notes in front of me.
22 minutes video.
Oh, well, that stupid nonsense with what's her face doing the climate change fucking song.
The one. Do the bit, Gavin. Do the bit.
I'm not doing the bit. Do I look like Liberal Tim? I don't read things that were on the CBC.
Well, okay, fine. I was hoping since you found this story, you were more enraged by it, but
oh, I am enraged. And it wasn't me. It was Tim that found this bit. It was Liberal Tim that found this bit that was on the CBC.
Never mind. I'll cut this out of the podcast one edit. We'll wait for Tim to come back, and he can tell us about it.
Yeah, we can do that. Or we can just talk about it now. I don't care.
Do something else that's extremely triggering.
So I will say, I watched this because you added it to the show notes. I hadn't seen it previously, and could not figure out why this was in the show notes because it wasn't funny at all. But then the David Suzuki,
and I'll fix it
David
in post.
Suzuki came in, and I actually kind of laughed at that part. The David Suzuki was pretty good. But
no, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And your tax dollars paid for it.
To the bottom of the stack, and we'll get Tim to talk about it, and then Gavin can explain why he's enraged, and we'll do that whenever we get around to that.
Yeah, we found a silver lining, though, so stay tuned.
So let's do something else entirely in CTV is mode captive set to sue Canada for $50 for alleged complicity in drinking tonight. Ex-Gitmo captive set to sue Canada for $50 million for alleged complicity in torture. So we gave one guy money. Now another guy figured out that he can probably get money. Oh, and guys that we found that also think they're going to get money for their involvement in alleged torturing at the hands of another state government.
So, I mean, I know Marty just watched the video, and I saw it, and I know you did. So that video we were just talking about, how much money do we get from the government for being subjected to that torture?
It's got to be worth at least $200.
Yeah, at least. Never watching that again. I mean, so what I don't understand is this guy isn't even a Canadian citizen, nor was he ever a Canadian citizen.
So but he briefly lived in Canada, and he's saying it's Canada's fault for being complicit. There's no mention of him trying to see, the government active and allegedly tortured him. This national who
I think the problem is that they've made our guys wear the blue helmets for so long that they think that we have to go and solve everybody's problems.
No, this is totally because we gave that other terrorist money.
Well, yeah, but
yeah, I mean, money. He even says that. This is a quote from the article from this guy saying, "Honestly, didn't know it was possible until I read the news about the settlement of Omar Khadr."
And I bet if you listen back to the old episode when we talked about the settlement for Omar Khadr, I can guarantee that I predicted this was going to happen, that other terrorists were going to sue our government for money, thought that they could get a payday. And that's exactly what this guy is doing. Canadian. He's never been Canadian. He tried to become a refugee here. Your claim was denied. So he decided to go to, Afghanistan?
Afghanistan
where
and
he's
Pakistan.
From and where he's there's some mystery story that's not explained, that somehow the Americans picked him up and detained him as a prisoner of war and sent him to Guantanamo.
Yeah.
Conveniently in the story. Because it's not like the Americans were...
If I'm trying to make a better life for myself, I'm going to try to come to Canada. If Canada says no, then I have to fall back to my second choice, which would be Afghanistan. That's clearly the number 2, right?
Yeah, I don't understand how you can arrive at the conclusion.
Is this story why we're letting all the terrorists come back to Canada so that they don't sue us for millions of dollars? Is it just cheaper to let them?
Let them sue us, and then we're just be paying terrorists, convicted, alleged, or otherwise.
Yeah,
we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We can all agree we shouldn't pay them, but we.
How do you say this dude's name? He's got his first name and too many vowels in his last name. But, okay, fine. What, you're going to sue us in a Canadian win? Tell him to find not in his favor. We're not the ones torturing you. If you have a problem with that, take it up with the UN and maybe the Americans, because they actually caught this guy's ass and they are the ones that run Guantanamo Bay, not us. The fact that our federal law enforcement agencies or intelligence agencies may have been involved in that, that's not our problem. Sucks to years, but he probably just doesn't go to Gitmo. It's not like everybody they picked up in Afghanistan got a free plane ticket to fucking Cuba. Like, they sent people there that they thought had intelligence information or were actually prisoners of war.
I'd like a free trip.
All right, here's another. Yeah. Here's another quote from this guy that I find great. So he couldn't find a job because of Guantanamo stigma and his age. So a settlement would be very helpful for me to get my life back together.
Yeah, you get no $50 million to get your life together. Like,
yeah,
$50 million is legitimate. Fuck you.
You were living in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Like,
$50 million is like legitimate fuck you money. Oh, what do you got a house like in Beverly Hills? Fuck you. Like,
if that's fuck you money,
this guy out of my helicopter.
If 50 mil is fuck you money in Canada, imagine what that is in Afghanistan.
Dude, this guy could be king of Afghanistan with 50. Well, maybe not king of Afghanistan.
Sponsor his own caliphate.
I bet he killed.
He could certainly be like the Ayatollah of something.
The only thing I can think he's the Ayatollah of is Rocket Super Lame. I don't even know where that's.
Oh. Well, he'd certainly rock the Casbah, that's for sure.
Oh, is it Mad Max?
Yeah, I mean,
is that? It is from Mad Max. It's from Road Warrior, the 1981.
Dude, you cut out for a long time, and then just came back with, "Is it Mad Max?" We have no idea how you jumped from this guy after $50 million to Mad Max. To
be fair, that's about as logical a conclusion as anything else.
I was trying Ayatollah of. It's the Ayatollah of rock and roll, and that's from
Mad Max.
But it's from the Road Warrior.
Yeah, like the good one.
The 1981.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Carrying on. Let's do another article.
Is he talking?
Oh, you're sexy.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything.
He didn't do nothing.
All right. Yeah.
All right. This is also from Toronto Sun. Win Liberals using our cash to get reelected. Go.
Is anybody surprised?
No. No, she's been using our cash to bail herself out for 10 years now.
At least. I mean, she's also been using our cash to go out on like dinner dates and all kinds of stuff. Of which, in one instance, she was actually in the background of a photo that Andrew took while he was out for dinner.
I know, that was super creepy, right?
Yeah, and if it wasn't her, man, it was some poor, unfortunate soul that looks like her. And Orville Redenbacher.
Popcorn.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much what we're all sitting back and eating when we watch anything that she does, because you know it's going to be a shit show.
Oh, yeah.
There's two things that are going on.
Incredible. All right, go ahead, Andrew. I
was going to say, there's two things that are going on with this. So the using our money to get reelected, and as part of that, there's also spending caps. They're changing who can spend how much money leading up to and during for be an amount. It's now set to 6. I don't honestly know what it was before that. For the 6 months leading up to an election, and once the election writ drops, then they're only allowed to spend $100,000 on advertising through the course of the election. And this now applies. The third-party rule is new. What third parties were allowed to advertise, and now they're also restricting how much money the third parties are allowed to spend for the 6 months leading the election period. When all the advertising space before the rules come into effect that limit their campaign spending.
I missed that about it affecting the third parties. Now, is there a total for all third parties, or every third party organization has a limit?
As far as I can tell, it's the individual third parties. I was really hoping it would be a total limit, because you could just make essentially a action committee, and you could just keep and give each of them the maximum budget, $600,000 or whatever the maximum budget for third parties is. Third parties historically have been things like the teachers union, other organizations. Unions are huge third-party political contribution for campaign funding, because they can do it in support or against any candidate they want. So in theory, like, every teacher's local could make their own PAC. Total amount of third-party funding that's available, it just $8,000 to.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's two different things. One, I mean, going back to her, buying her votes using, basically what they're saying is that she's trying to buy votes in the way that every politician tries to buy votes. Like, she's promising all kinds of outrageous spending in order to get reelected, despite our debt and our deficits. It's one of those things where they're just going to promise the moon in order to get reelected and then try and deal with it after the fact. So that's the spending side of things. The other side of things of trying to limit the spending for the campaigns. In general, I agree with limiting the spending for the campaigns. Personally, the issue is the third party spending, because the third party spending is a double-edged sword, because not only are they spending money to get their candidate elected, but that essentially buys the candidate, because now that candidate that just got elected is indebted to whoever just spent that money on them. And now you start having unions, corporations having sway or increased influence over our politicians. So to me, that's a lot more of an issue than how much an individual campaign spends, is allowing this third-party spending to exist.
Yeah, I mean, any party that's still in power always uses your money to continue to stay in power, which is bullshit. I mean, that should not be the case.
Depends. Sometimes they promise cuts. Like, they'll promise a tax cut. Like, we'll let you keep some more of your money. I'm not going to steal all of it off you.
Yeah, but they promise that, but how many of them actually really come through with that, right? Like,
yeah.
It's not like they're using, like, money from the party funds to fund their ads to stay in power and this and that and everything else. They're always using your tax dollars to fund their ad campaigns, and we'll subsidize this so that you can get cheap LED light bulbs or cheaper hydro, and all of this nonsense. But really, it's just your tax dollars that are
free net
paying for that.
thermostats.
Yeah, that are paying for that to buy your vote. Like,
yep. And unfortunately, there is a segment of society that eats it up.
Yeah, the people that don't listen to this show.
People that don't listen to the show and believe that they're entitled to other people's money.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we need your help. Support our Patreon.
Yes. We need to enter a bunch of people into the beer mile next year. And training is expensive.
Yeah.
But if Coors Banquet would like to sponsor the show, we'd be welcoming that in all possible ways.
Yes, or any other beer company for that matter.
Yeah.
Or like
I believe that
the whiskey
Coors Banquet is banned from the beer mile as a performance enhancer.
But could it be used as a training aid?
Well, yes. I mean, it's like Ram's piss.
Yeah, it's too high tea for the beer mile.
Did we lose Andrew again?
He's probably just shouting obscenities at his microphone.
Probably, but that's no different.
It's gonna cut in randomly.
He's doing the coffee mile in the hotel right now.
All right, so I think that's our Ontario politics. Let's just keep moving on without him, and
maybe we'll have to get out of here. We don't need him.
No.
All right, next article. Kitchener Police offering amnesty for unwanted guns. This comes from Kitchener CTV News. As always, with all of these gun buybacks, they do not target criminals. They just target the average person. Those who have firearms and are just no longer interested in having them, they're not the guns that are used in crime. These are the average person that just, no longer has a use for Grandpa's 22.
To be fair, though, like I would rather them target non-criminals, because at least then you know that like there's not some criminal that's gonna not get caught now because he doesn't have his illegal handgun, or JR carbine and pink Muddy Girl camo.
Yeah, actually, and I'd like to use this as an announcement. I will also take unwanted guns in the Kitchener area. Just send an email to the podcast, and
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure all of us will gladly take your firearms off your hands. And what are the cops giving out this time? Nothing, or are they giving like a food voucher? High fives? I'll give you a double high five.
I don't know. It's a video article, so I'm not watching it.
Yeah, no, I don't have time for that nonsense either. But I mean, if they're gonna give you $50, I'll give you $55 cash.
I'm pretty sure they were giving nothing other than, we're not gonna ask for a license. So if you don't have one, just give us your guns. It's cool. We're not gonna check.
Oh, so then in that case, I'll totally give you I'll give you a high five.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even give you $5 if it's something I really want. Maybe.
Yeah, it sucks because like every time you see these, you always see like Grandpa's Luger that was found in the attic, or like some other like historically significant firearms, and you're like, oh, like those, those are just getting cut down and melted now, and just getting destroyed, and it's like the history behind these firearms.
Yeah, and it's not getting illegal guns. Yeah, it's not getting illegal guns off the street. And anytime an illegal gun gets turned in, guess what happens to it? Like we said, it gets cut, it gets melted and scrapped. So
yes,
they can't use that to catch whoever got shot by that fucking thing. So how is that helping anybody? Like, oh great, illegal gun off the streets, which that shitbag probably goes out and buys another one. Because now he knows that the old one is gone.
The shitbag didn't turn his in.
Well, but even if he did, It's now been melted down, so he can't be charged with any crime that was committed with it because it doesn't exist anymore. And now he has a new gun that's clean. So
no, I have nothing to back this up other than random conversations that I've had. From what I understand, the amnesty when you turn it in is that, I don't have a license to have this and things like that. But they then scan each gun turned in if it's been used in a crime.
Yeah, but I mean, unless
likely,
do they record the information of who hands it in?
Yes.
Well, at least they're doing something.
But I mean, unless they test the ballistics on it,
I know the odds they would never find anything, but they do some sort of a check. I don't know if it's just probably just a serial number or something dumb like that.
Yeah, so to see that it's been stolen. But I mean, if it's an illegal handgun that's never been registered, or it's been
there's basically nothing they would ever be able to do with it. But yeah, there is some. Yeah. The amnesty is limited in
fair, but that's still basically if you have a gun that was never registered and you've murdered a bunch of people with it, this is a good opportunity to get rid of it. Not that that's advice. Not that this is advice, but yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. But we will gladly take your old used firearms off your hands.
Yeah, email the podcast. If you've
feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Marty especially loves 22s. They're his favorite. The fuddier, the better.
Yeah,
and you
definitely. I'm a big fan of 22s for sure.
Yeah.
So many people take you seriously. All right, I guess is anything else on that topic?
No, I mean, I think the whole thing is fucking ridiculous.
I think the funny part was
gun buybacks are.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. There was all kinds of people just saying, "Hey, I'll give you, $50. Just message me." Like, as soon as it went out online, people were just using it as a way to find gun sellers. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's ever one set up at a police station, I'm going to set up shop across the street and offer them $2 more than whatever the cops are offering them.
Timmy take 10.
$50, $100 more. I mean, even the, even your old Kui 22, you can get $100 for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's
as long as it's functional.
Yeah, I just don't want to say for everything I'll give you $200 because I don't want your homemade slam fire plumbing pipe shotgun. I'm not giving you money for that. I can go buy a Home Depot pipe for less money than that's worth. But
that's not a bad idea. We should find out how much they're giving away and be like, yeah, I have the zip gun here.
Yeah. It's legal so long as you don't try to sell it, right? Isn't that how Canadian law works? You're allowed to manufacture your own guns?
You're not allowed to manufacture prohibs, no.
But that
is not how Canadian law works. Listeners, that is not how Canadian law works.
But as long as it meets all the criteria, that's not a prohib, right?
A zip gun?
I mean, as long as it meets all the criteria of a firearm, it doesn't need to be super fancy. Anyways,
yeah. Well, I mean, there's been times where they've taken airsoft guns and BB guns and stuff like that back as well. So yeah, depending what their price is, what they're offering, you might be able to just buy crappy airsoft gun and take it back.
I don't know. Some of those are more expensive than the actual guns. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, some of them are nice, but don't take a nice one.
Yeah, those clear plastic ones.
Yeah, exactly. Clear plastic ones from Canadian Tire.
Yeah. I had one of those once, and I tried painting it, and the paint like melted the plastic. It's brutal.
It just dissolves it. Yeah. It's basically made from like sugar.
Yeah, pretty much. It's that glass that they use in the movies.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Education. It's an article from Conrad Black. In response to failing test results, Teachers Federation proposes ending testing. This is specifically around the grade 6 math scores, standardized testing for math scores.
I mean, how can we fail if there's no testing?
That's essentially what they said. They basically said that they were upset because the failing scores caused people to be upset at the teachers and upset at the curriculum. And so in order to prevent people from being upset about this, we should just stop the testing.
Yeah, I mean, if this article was a meme, it would be that one of Eddie Murphy pointing at his head, and it would say, how could we fail if there's not any grades? But like,
I mean, like, they're not wrong. They're not wrong.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah, they're absolutely right, which is weird. Yeah. That the media is right.
If we don't test, nobody fails. I completely agree.
Yeah. Are we going to start adopting that for other things though, like, you know, the driving exam or the gun safety exam, or like, you know, you go and you write the test, but then they don't bother grading it, so you just everybody passes, so everybody can drive, everybody can own a gun.
I believe you're talking about participation awards.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's how this works now, right?
I think so.
Yep. Sweet.
And it's interesting because so in the article from the the
National Post,
the letter that was released from the Teachers Federation. They talk about how like this all started about 10 years ago when we changed the curriculum from essentially like the memorization and like the traditional how you do addition, subtraction, division, multiplication that we all learned growing up. They changed it to the discovery math. And like this all started back when we changed it to discovery math. Okay. Let's go back then.
Yeah.
And it's like like this all changed. We switched to this discovery math, and the grades started to fall. And so then we spent more money on teaching them discovery math, and we, you know, in Ontario, we increased the amount of times. We went from like 60 minutes a day to 90 minutes a day of teaching them discovery math. And that still didn't make a difference. You know, it still kept falling. It's like, okay, let's go back to the old curriculum that worked. Like it seems so obvious that this discovery math doesn't make any sense.
It's always moving forward, Marty. Forward, never backwards. Always forward.
And this is always the thing. Is, you know, I'm even fine that they tried it. You know, they like, okay, sure. Somehow, some think tank, you thought that this was going to be a good idea. We tried it. It's a failure, and they cannot admit that it's a failure, and so they double down on it. You know, we just need to do it harder. We need to do it more, and then it'll work. It's like this is a bad idea. I mean, like, I work in an office with lots of engineers, and I mean, we've sat and looked at some of these like math, like elementary school math problems from using this new method.
Yeah.
And we're looking at their solutions going, what the, like, how are they, why would you do this? It makes no sense. And these are
as long as you show your work.
Yeah, like, these are people that work with higher level mathematics every single day. And we're looking at this going, this is the worst idea I've ever seen. This makes no sense. And it'll take a few of us, 10 minutes just to figure out what they did to get, to take the route that they've taken to follow their solution. Like, this is terrible mathematics. And yes, kids are not understanding it. They're not learning. So like they're not learning this method, and they're not being taught the traditional method that has worked for decades.
Oh, I mean,
like this is just a bad idea.
Oh, I was in the transitional period, and it makes no sense. You know, grade 5 and 6, I did the normal math. High school, I did this discovery math, and I struggled because it didn't make sense. You're right. It's just weird.
Yeah. There you go. That and I need to apparently to make a correction. The photo I've thought that was Eddie Murphy pointing at his head apparently is not Eddie Murphy.
I did not think that was Eddie Murphy.
Real, I totally thought that was always Eddie Murphy, like a young Eddie Murphy, but apparently I'm wrong. So,
they all just look the same to you, don't they, Gavin?
What can I say? All those actors in Hollywood, they just look the same to me.
Yeah.
Effort
One
to not
predator looks like the other, right?
Yeah, in an effort to not be fake news, I figured I should correct that. So it's apparently an actor. Coyote Iwumi. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but that was not Eddie Murphy. So I'm sorry, people. I retract my previous statement, but the image still holds true. You know, if we don't have any grades.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's no grades, no one can fail. It's just like it's just like what they're doing with the kids in like their sports. Like you have a soccer game and no one keeps score.
Yeah, which like I get if they're like 2. It's for fun. But like once your kid realizes that like, oh, I'm supposed to kick this ball in the net and that's a goal, well, how many did I get?
So
well, what does that mean if I got more than the other team? Oh, it means you won. You did something good. Keep doing that. Well, it's not the end of the world, but, sometimes that happens in life. Use that as a learning experience to not do that again.
Just like in sports, not keeping score. Just like this, not having tests, like potentially not having tests and not having scores and things like that. It's depriving the kids of the lessons that as adults, we are charged with teaching these kids. The lesson that when you work at something, you can accomplish. You can study and learn math. You can learn to memorize your times tables and all things like that, and then see the accomplishment that you get from that. Just like in sports, you learn that like you practice and you can train and you can perform at a higher level and you can win games and you can learn the defeat and learn to suffer defeat and learn how to take defeat and use that and learn from that and sort of build skills based on those things. These are all important and very important life lessons that you get as a child. That kids are being deprived of. And we see it with the whole, look at the US. Look what happened when their presidential candidate lost.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't know how to handle it. They absolutely don't know how to handle it. They imploded.
Yeah. We
have a whole generation. Go ahead, Gavin. Sorry.
Oh, no, I agree 100%. Like, it teaches you humility. It teaches you not to be overconfident. Like, all of these things are important life lessons that apply more to than just playing like t-ball with 6-year-olds. Like, when you're in a business situation and you pitch a massive $1 billion contract, if you ever get to that level, to somebody and you don't get it, it sucks. But like, what do? Do you just give up and go, oh, well, I guess I'm never going to work again. I'm going to just like retire and go on the dole, right? Like,
because you deserved it or was entitled to that job somehow.
Yeah, like you go, okay, well, why didn't I get that? You suck it up and you figure out what to do different and better next time so that you can get it.
Yeah. What did the person that won? What did they do differently than you did?
Yeah. And why did I not get it? And like, life isn't fair. So sometimes it's like you should have got it, but you didn't. But it teaches you how to deal with all of that stuff because it's like losing is a part of life, man. Like it sucks, but it's an important part of life. Like you got to figure out how to deal with that. And if you don't ever have to deal with losing when you get into the real world, man, it's really going to suck. Like if you're like 30 before the time you actually have to like try something and fail, like you'll never be able to deal with it.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that a lot more. Like the way they're babying everybody, people are going to start failing when like you say, they're 30 and older. And it's going to have a big effect on the way the world works, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, it has to.
Yeah.
I mean, they have no concept of. Well, I think work ethic is a huge one that gets eliminated by removing goals.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like if there's nothing to strive for, and if you work hard or you don't work hard, everybody gets the same result. You know, it's the whole like socialism, communism issue. Like it's, you know, it seems great in theory but in application, everybody just stops doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, all it takes is one person to want more than the system offers and takes advantage of it. It goes, I'm in charge now, so I get everything and you get everything for free. But then you end up waiting in line for 6 hours to get bread. And somehow that's a better system.
So, all right, well, speaking of all of our free socialist wonderland, let's look at the next topic. Healthcare. It's insane. It's insane. Ontario patient told she'd have to wait 4.5 years to see neurologist.
It sounds totally fair.
Yep.
That's especially when you've got less than that to live.
Yeah.
But it's free, so
Yeah, it's free. You know, it's one of those things like when you look at it, everybody, for the most part, listen to this podcast, they're probably taxpayers. Look at it this way. Think about every single dollar you pay in taxes. I think we're at, 47% of every dollar you earn is paid in taxes, cumulatively.
Yeah.
Roughly 40% of that total goes to healthcare in this country. That's how much you're paying every single year for healthcare. And it takes you 4.5 years to see a specialist that you need to see.
Well, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, and to share a personal story of sorts, my mother several years ago was diagnosed with cancer. And luckily caught it early and all that and went to, go to the doctors and get all of this stuff sorted out. And, they were saying, oh, yeah, we get this and we'll get you a specialist, but like you're on the wait list. So, that could take several months to several years to get in and actually get treatment for this. And she was like, but like, I've got cancer. Like, the sooner we get at this, the better my chances are. So shouldn't this be a priority? And they're like, well, there's a wait list and this and that and everything else. And we'll get to it when we get to it. So, we actually, are fortunate enough that like we have a business that makes money and could afford to go down to the US, go see some doctors there. And luckily we ended up getting into a doctor in Toronto. So we didn't end up having to actually, spend a whole ton of money, but like we were willing to do that so that we could get seen faster to deal with this. Because if you'd wait longer, maybe it gets to the point where you can't do anything about it. And luckily we could get in and see somebody and it's all gotten taken care of and she did all her treatments and now it's not an issue anymore. But there aren't people that are that fortunate that have the ability to go elsewhere, so they're dependent on our system, and our system is bullshit. Like, yeah, it's free, but like, what good does that matter? Like, if you need to go see someone before your 4-year wait time is up, because you're dead. Who cares if it's free or not? Like, you're dead.
Yeah.
Paid all this in tax for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's bullshit.
And the thing is, it's not free. You've paid for it, and when you need it, it's not there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your stupid car insurance, right? Like, you pay all this money in case shit happens, and then when shit happens, you have to pay more money. That's basically what this is, only when you need it, it's not there. I mean, we'd be better off to just get rid of it and let everyone keep some money or get private health insurance that'll cover these things so that when they actually need it, they can get the service they need. Like, it's so ridiculous.
I think this is a good example. Is MRIs. MRIs are always an issue in this country.
Yeah.
If you blow out your knee or something like that and you need to get an MRI done, you're looking at least 6 months.
Oh yeah.
Unless it's something super critical that they can get you in there. And I mean, like, I know people that, like, they've blown out their knee and, like, they're in, like, braces and on crutches, and they're like, yeah, I can't. It takes 6 months to get an MRI. Like, it's very severe before you can get in there quicker. And I don't know what the cost is to the taxpayer, but I'm gonna guess it's in the thousands of dollars. It's got to be likely somewhere $8,000-$10,000 to have an MRI done.
Yeah.
If my dog were to injure himself, I could get an MRI for him tomorrow, and it's $500 or $800 or something like that.
Yep.
It's the same MRI machine, but it's the private market versus the public healthcare system.
Yeah.
And there's facilities. Like, I'd have to drive to the next, like, major city. I couldn't get it done locally. I have to go to the next major city. But, like, it's there and it's available, and it's not nowhere near the expense, and it's the same machine, it's the same service. Like,
yeah. But those guys that run the ones for animals should just charge, like, triple for people, and they'd fucking make a killing.
But they're not allowed to. See, that's the thing, is we have government protection on our monopoly, and no one is allowed to compete. They would be fined and charged, and their business would be shut down if they tried to compete against the government monopoly.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. I mean, because I've had to go get an MRI on my knee, and it sucked. I hate those things. You're in this tube that makes a whole lot of noise, and you can't move for an hour. But like, I had to go, like a Saturday morning, like ass early in the morning, just to be able to get in, and it still took me a month and a half, 2 months to be able to get in. And I was like, I will take any time, call me, as long as it's a half an hour beforehand, I can get there.
Yeah.
And that was the only way I could get in 2 months. Otherwise, it would have taken me forever. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, like, that's just one example, and neurologist, it's a little bit more difficult in that it's the more specialized it is, the more difficult it is going to be to see someone. But it's frustrating when you just see so much sort of waste in the system that like, they're stealing that money off of my paycheck and then just wasting it. And then when you see someone like this who needs a service and then they can't get it because the money's not there and the service aren't there because it's been wasted on all this other bullshit, it's just extremely frustrating as a taxpayer.
Yeah, I mean, you pay all this money for what? And they tax you out the ass and, blow money on stupid shit. And then when you see someone that actually needs it and they don't get it, it's like, why even bother? Like, what? This is the whole reason we have this system in place. Like, I don't like it, but this is why we have it in place. And the people that need it aren't getting it. And the people that don't need it, we're giving them $10 million because they're a friggin' terrorist. dollars, how many MRIs could that have bought? How many, radiation treatments could that have bought?
For humans or for dogs? Because I think we've established that there's a very different price point.
Fair. And dogs are better than people.
Oh, so much better. The more people meet, the more I appreciate my dog.
Yeah. And my favorite thing about people is their dogs.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Bone is Not Alone. Matt, why don't you take this one?
All right, so Slamfire Radio is holding a fundraiser called Bone is Not Alone in support of a listener called Richard Bone, who is a firearms advocate, and he is currently battling cancer, and we as the firearms community want to help give back to him and support him. So they're doing a fundraiser raffle with the one and only prize being a NEA BCL 102 donated by SFRC, a Smith & Wesson SD9 donated by Calgary Shooting Center, and a Sabertooth SKS chassis donated by Matador Arms. So tickets are $5 each or $20 for 5, and they're accepting EMTs at slamfireradio@gmail.com. And that's going to run until November 9th.
While you're at it, though, and
whoever wins the whole lot.
Yeah, it's just all one prize.
Nice. That's a hell of a prize, man, to get all of those.
Yeah, that's a hell of a prize.
Yeah. But seriously, though, while you're at it and you're donating money to a good cause for somebody that needs it, you should also totally send Trevor to that same email pictures of clowns. He loves clowns.
Yes.
So send a donation and then send a photo of a clown to that same email address and tell them that you donated. And tell them that you donated because you heard it on our podcast. I'm sure that'll make them even more happy.
Yeah, this is such a good cause. This guy, he's one of us. He's a firearms guy. This guy is going through so much. He's been fighting cancer over the last 5 years, and he's been a driving force with the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. So this guy, despite all his personal issues, despite all of his struggles and everything that he's going through, I can't imagine the financial burden on someone going through this kind of thing. He is out there fighting for you. He's fighting for me. It's just you see a guy like this, and like everything he's going through, and he's looking out for the rest of us.
Yep.
And he's out there fighting for you. You got to support this guy. We got to show our appreciation as a firearms community. We got to show what kind of people we are. And I know I personally sent a fair bit of money over to try and support this, and I hope that you guys do as well.
Yeah. No, everyone should. I mean, like it sucks that we need to do this because like we just said, we've got this system in place to help these people. And helping people like this is one thing I don't mind my tax money going to, but for some reason we shit all over them and we need to spend more money to help them. But if I'm going to spend more money, it's going to be on helping people like this that, support our causes, and we should do it because it's the right thing to do. And if you got a couple of extra bucks, do it. And if you win, that is one hell of a prize pack, man.
Yeah,
definitely. That is one hell of a prize pack, yeah. So they also have a My Shopify page set up. The link is in the show notes, where they have some pretty okay tees.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like they're good, but they're not quite good.
They're not good. They're not good, but they're pretty okay. They're
not bad.
They're all right.
Yeah.
But that's another fundraiser. You can buy the merch from them, and I'm assuming the proceeds are then being donated towards this cause.
Yeah. If you get one of the T-shirts, I hear there's a few gun clubs that are pro-cancer in the area. You should totally wear it to them because they would hate it. So you should totally buy a shirt and buy all the raffle tickets. It's good times, really.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna skip bottom of the stack, seeing as
yeah, I guess this is where we tell everyone
we're already going long, and
yeah, where
no
they
one
can
else is
find
here,
us
so
on social media. So Marty,
who's doing that?
Where can we find you on social media, Marty?
You can email the podcast at feedback@canadianpatriotpodcast.com.
And tell what firearms you have and you no longer want. He'll gladly share that with everyone, and we'll take those off your hand for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt,
we will do our service to society by removing those from potential criminals and into the safes of the law-abiding firearms owners.
Yeah. And I need a new safe at this point too. So like I'll be spending my hard-earned money on that to take these guns off the street.
Yeah.
That's my commitment.
That's very noble of you to make that sacrifice and that donation towards the cause.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to keep the children safe. Matt, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Facebook if you can figure out who I am, but we need your support. Go to patreon.com/CPP and donate some shekels.
Nice. Yeah. No, seriously. You should do that.
Shekels are always appreciated.
Yeah.
We need those. We've got a huge team of people going to the beer mile this year. We've got gun safes to buy to get dangerous guns off the street. I mean, all kinds of stuff, really. And I guess you could
cost money.
Yeah,
you can find Andrew at shop.ragnaroktactical.ca. It's always a good place to get your medical gear as well as other items. So you can check that out.
Yeah. As much as planning to not get hurt is a great plan, it fails pretty badly when it does. So you should totally get some medical supplies. I've got some.
And honestly, everybody always talks about their EDC kind of thing, and maybe that's something you should consider including in your EDC is some medical supplies. If anything were ever to happen, you have some sort of base level medical trauma kit kind of thing,
or even just to keep it in your car just in case. You never know what's going to happen, and it's not have it.
Yeah, I mean, I always keep one on my belt, one in my gun bag, one in my medical thing at home, and one in the car.
Yeah, it's everybody assumes that you're talking about a bullet wound kind of thing, but a car accident can cause the same kind of trauma that can require a trauma kit as a bullet can. So it's and you never know when you're going to be the car that's first on scene. And having the supplies there to make a difference, that can be life or death for someone.
Yeah.
So a
belt doesn't work. Get a tourniquet. If you're not going to get anything else, get a tourniquet or some gauze.
They're very small. They're easy to store somewhere.
Yeah, you can stick it in your pocket, and you know what? If you go into through any airport or any concert or sporting event, never has that ever been turned away that you can't bring it through that metal detector. They are good everywhere. I travel with mine in my backpack constantly when I go overseas and wherever, just to have one on me. And the excuse of, oh, it's so heavy or it takes up space is bullshit. You can have one with you everywhere. So get one.
Right, and Gavin, where can the internet find you?
They can find me at the Instagrams at urbex_GTA. It's the best place. Check out all my gun photos and cool shit like that.
Excellent, Matt. Why don't you sign us off with the tagline?
Yeah.
So just remember, everybody, you are the true north, strong and free.
All right. Thanks, everyone.